Isn't living life as a motorcyclist amazing? I mean, we get to go out all the time and rip up twisty roads, feel the wind in our hair, and have a good time. We never ever get stuck in traffic or have to ride in the city. That would be a bummer, right? I mean, straight roads, lots of starting and stopping, and you can imagine the gooch juice? Except you can, because basically everyone has to ride a motorcycle in the city at some point. If you live in the suburbs or in the country, you might be willing to put up with wrestling a leader bike or a touring bike through the city on a rare occasion you find yourself in the concrete jungle. But if you live in the heart of a city and you're looking for motorcycles to ride on the daily, then your needs are different. You're gonna want something that's light, comfortable to ride from stoplight to stoplight, and still capable of going out and hitting a nice back road on the weekends. Riding a motorcycle in the city doesn't mean you're stuck with a Ninja 400 or other small beginner bikes as well. You have tons of options, and today I'm going to outline 10 of the best city bikes you can purchase today. They're not in any particular order, by the way, just gets the ones that give you a warm fuzzy. Starting us off today, we have the humble Husqvarna Vitpillon 401. Hey Yammie, that's a beginner bike. You said we wouldn't be stuck with beginner bikes in the city. Well, you're correct that this Vart is a great beginner bike, possibly the best beginner bike out right now. It's also a great bike in its own right. This Vart is packing KTM's 373cc thumper, putting down 44 horse and 27 foot-pounds of torque, which means that not only can it do all the highway riding your heart desires, but it can also outrun pretty much any car away from a stoplight. Thanks to its Pirelli Rally Scorpions from the factory, you don't need to worry about the tire sliding out from under you when you roll over some dust or some gravel through a construction zone, and you can also take it down some fire roads, medians, your neighbor's front lawn, or wherever else you want, really, because it's meant to be an urban enduro. A nice plus for this bike as a city bike is that it's crazy lightweight, tipping the scales at only 335 pounds dry, so add another 20-ish pounds for fluid, and you're looking at about 350-pound motorcycle ready to ride. That means you're not going to have to worry about balancing a heavy bike at a stop. For $4,999, you're getting a bike with fully adjustable WP Apex suspension, toggleable rear wheel ABS, and some seriously out there styling. Also, it wheelies really easily. But since we started small, let's talk about a bike for the folks out there with fragile egos, for whom any bike with less than 100 horsepower might as well be a scooter, the Indian FTR 1200, more specifically the new one with 17s. Look, I'm a bit disappointed that they took the flat track inspired front tire off the bike and made it more sporty in an attempt to sell a few more bikes, but I have to say that it's actually made a much better motorcycle. Even if they did sacrifice the bike's soul on the altar of the almighty dollar, but there I go again being a Ducatista talking about the soul and the character of the bike. The FTR 1200 features a beefed up version of the Scout's engine, bored out to 1203 cc's and putting down 120 horse and 85 foot-pounds of torques, which is awesome in the city. One of the best ways to avoid getting splattered by a Prius is to be able to power out of a bad situation, and having all that torque on tap right away is perfect. Don't kid yourself though, you're never going to be able to use all 120 ponies of this thing on the daily in the city, but with new smaller tires it makes for a perfect weekend canyon carver. Even though that's not what Indian meant for the bike to be, and they decided to make a sport naked bike out there with the world's only production flat track style bike. But hey, I'm not bitter about it at all. Park this thing next to your local cafe and enjoy. Now how about a pair of bikes for the squids out there? We've got one dual sport and one sumo, and we'll start off with the dual sport, the WR250R. Time to wax poetic about my WR. Unfortunately, the WR250R is a completely unsexy motorcycle, so no one cares about it, but they're overlooking a seriously awesome bike for the city. Sure, it was meant to ride around trails and spend most of its life off-road, but around town, the WR is a ton of fun. You can ring out the little 249cc single and use every ounce of its 30 horsepower and 18 foot-pounds of torque. Now I know what you're thinking, the power figures are about as sexy as the motorcycle is, but think about it this way, the WR is basically the perfect urban escape vehicle. Here in Austin we have a highway called Loop 360. It's a 4-lane road with dirt shoulders and a giant median. Because it's in Austin, it tends to become a parking lot every day from about 2 in the afternoon until 7. On a bigger bike, you're stuck in traffic, but on the WR, you're spoiled for choice. Do you want to take that one path off the side of the road that looks like it was meant for a mountain bike? Or do you want to hop a curb, pop into a neighborhood and skip the traffic? Or do you just want to split all your way through traffic in any single lane you want? You can take the WR around over any obstacle the city can throw at you, and it'll sit there asking if that's all you've got. Bonus, this bike is super lightweight too, at about 300 pounds ready to ride. I love the WR. And speaking of the WR, I gotta shout out our beginner bike giveaway series because we're doing something a little bit different this time. We've got a Triumph Trident up for grabs, which is a great city bike, even though it's not on the list, but we're also giving away a $6,000 cash prize, which you can use to pick up any motorcycle you'd like. Or I guess on anything, but it would make me sad if you spent it on a car or something like that. Most of the bikes on the list today can be had for around $6,000 new or used, so you'd be able to pick up any bike you'd like, except that FTR. You definitely can't get that for $6,000. If you want to get entered, you can click the links down below. We've got a whole bunch of options to get entered. YammieNoob.co, where you can get access to the Discord server, exclusive live streams, and behind the scenes goodies. YammieNoobMerch.com, where you can get yourself any of our sweet merch, and every dollar you spend is an entry to win. And last but not least, we have our new store, the YN Moto Store, where you can get yourself riding gear, tools, tires, parts, and every dollar you spend is an entry to win there too. Check all that out down below. Now, the other squid option is the DRZ 400 SM. Yeah, another very unsexy motorcycle, but much like the Grom riders and Harley Pirates, DRZ riders are a die-hard breed. They'll go to the mat for their bikes as one of the last true supermotos out there, since it's small and actually based on a dirt bike, unlike the KTMs and Huskies. The Supermoto is the bike for the rider who wants to do basically everything on one motorcycle, strap a milk crate to the bike to go grocery shopping, slap some on-road / off-road tires and scramble it, take it to a track day, whatever you want, the DRZ can do. Just don't expect it to be very quick or good about it. It's packing a 398cc single, putting down 40 horse and 29 foot-pounds of torques, which is a solid number, but its power delivery is lazy. Fun fact, they actually geared the DRZ SM down 4 teeth in the rear over the dual sport so it can hit better highway speeds, but they claim a top speed of 90, so I would just slap a dual sport sprocket and have the bike be in party mode all the time. The DRZ is a little old for what it is, which is what I would say if I was being less generous. What I would say is that it's comically out of date. The bike's been made the exact same way since 2005, so it's still got a carburetor, a 5-speed gearbox, and goofy dual sport looks. They're an acquired taste for sure, but if you want to style a bike that's literally just about having a good time around any corner, whether it's out in the hills or in the city, then you owe it to yourself to check out the DRZ 400 SM. Number 5 is going to go to a classic city bike, the MT-07. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the MT because, come on, who doesn't know everything there is to know about this bike at this point? It's a great commuter, a great weekend bike, it's got a sweet exhaust note, and it's cheap. The MT-07 just got updated for this year for the first time in like half a decade, but it's still packing the lovable old 689cc cross-plane parallel twin, putting down 70 horsepower and 50 foot-poundos of torgos. The best part of the MT-07, in my opinion, is the sound that it makes. When you get an exhaust system on there and it really opens it up, it sounds totally unique and badass. The 2021 update has changed a few things around, like a new airbox, slightly different exhaust system, but aside from the aesthetic changes, there's no reason to grab the 2021 versus any other model year because you can get them for pretty cheap and the exhausts are already on the bike usually and they're basically the same. Number 6 required a little bit more thought. I wanted to include a sport bike, but let's be honest, they're not great motorcycles for city riding. Their cramped ergos get exhausting after a few miles since they're so hopped up, they throw off a lot of heat. Combine that with the whole bike being wrapped up in plastic and you got a boiling hot bike that is painful to ride. But if you really want to carve up a corner, you probably don't want an upright naked bike. Instead, I chose the Husqvarna Vitpillon 701. 2 Huskies in one list, did you ever think you'd see the day? The Vitpillon 701 is packing KTM's 693cc thumper that puts down a whopping 75 horse and 55 foot-pound of torques. If you think this means the bike doesn't have any top end, you'd be mistaken. You can rev the pants off this engine all day long and it'll just keep going. Sometimes it'll start leaking. I have heard about Spite and Whitney's 701 derived platform motorcycles leaking brake fluid and oil here and there and etc, but we're not going to talk about that, are we? The best part about the 701 is that it has clip-on so you can get into a nice tuck and attack a corner. The WP Apex suspension will hold on a line harder than a Noob whiskey throttle and an R1. If you're looking for a bike with aggressive ergos that you can actually ride on the daily, I can't think of a better one for under 10 grand. The Vitpillon retails at $94.99, but for some reason dealers are letting them go for as low as $8 grand. At that price, don't think, just buy, then be fast. Number 7 goes to the pocket protector of motorcycles, the Honda NC750, but before you flame me in the comments, hear me out. I would never be caught dead riding one of these bikes, but if you're looking for a 2-wheeled vehicle that you could theoretically get rid of your car for, this is the bike. It's packing a 745cc parallel twin, putting down 51 horsepower and 51 pounds-feet of torques, which isn't much given the displacement, but it's not meant for a speed demon. The NC has a frunk built into the gas tank that's big enough to fit a full-face helmet, can be fitted with hardbacks and a top box from the factory, and comes with a DCT option. If you're serious about commuting on 2 wheels, this is probably the best bike for the job. It's nerdier than a Versa 650, which is saying a lot, but in terms of practicality, the Versas can't even touch the NC. The only oversight I can see on this bike is that it ships with a chain final drive. Given the purpose of the NC750 to just be an appliance, it seems odd the bike doesn't come with a shaft drive, but maybe cleaning your chain will be more than enough to make you feel like an actual motorcyclist. Number 8, the Zero S. Come on, you knew there was going to be at least one electric bike on the list, right? I mean, what could make a better city bike than one that doesn't make any noise, has instant torque off the line, and never needs gas? Sure, the range on electric bikes is a bit of a bummer, meaning you can't get out and ride in the hills on the weekend, but you can still squeeze 134 miles out of the battery before needing a recharge. Or at least that's the claimed number. In my experience, you should subtract at least 40 miles off the top because you're not going to try and ride like you're driving Miss Daisy. You're going to twist the throttle and feel all 78 foot-pounds of torques. The best part about electric bikes is that they're crazy low maintenance since there's no valves or liquids or anything to worry about like that. And according to Zero, you're only paying about 81 cents to recharge the bike, which is pretty sweet. You'll have to pay a pretty decent price for the bike that's only for city riding, with the base model coming in at $10,995. But you can get government incentives, which makes a bike a bit cheaper in the long run. Number 9, one for all those neo-retro bike bros out there, it's the Ducati Scrambler Icon. It's the cheapest Scrambler in the line if you don't count the 62, but that doesn't mean it's not awesome. You're getting that 803cc air-cooled Desmo V-twin putting down 75 horse and 50 foot-pounds of torques, and you get that lovely grumble you can only get from an Italian V-twin. If you're worried about the bike overheating in traffic, you're not going to have a problem unless you're in Texas in the summer when it's 110 degrees outside. Listen, if my bike has survived 2 Texas summers at this point, your bike's going to be just fine. You just got to keep it moving and you're going to be okay. You do have to contend with Desmo valve service jobs on it. I'm pretty sure neutral is an optional add-on, which I basically can't find unless the light has already turned green, but hey, it's Eurobike life, right? It's a small price to pay for a superior machine that all your friends on Japanese cafe bikes are going to want to look at. Number 10, and probably the absolute king of all city bikes, and it's kind of a category of bike, but we're just going to use this one. It's the Honda Super Cub, but that's a scooter! Yeah, and scooters are literally the best way to get around in a city on 2 wheels, my dude. Just because you're not secure enough in your masculinity to ride one doesn't mean it's any less true. It's small, it's light, it's cheap, they're completely unkillable. It's got a Grom engine in it, which means you can probably just keep topping off the brake-in oil and never do a single service and it'll just keep running. Seriously guys, it's the most popular vehicle on the planet for a reason. If you want a bike to get you to and from in the city, there's nothing better. And if you need to, you can keep an R1 in the garage so you can overcompensate on the weekends. Fact, in the 18th century, wealthy British landowners hired ornamental hermits to live in their gardens. Goodbye. Bummer for you, my little squid. This video is actually over, but lucky for you, there's plenty of other Yammie videos you can check out right over here. What's gonna happen to them? I don't know. I haven't seen them, but you can watch them right now.